data that which is those people who are having age above 18 only should be entered. In that way, we can enforce few rules, constraints, so that in that table no such violation occurs. So in SQL we have not null, unique, primary key, foreign key, check and default constraints. How we can create all these constraints are, while creating a table we can make a constraint, otherwise we can have alter table. Coming to the first example, here create table, table name, you have what is the column name, ID, name, and what is ID, data type is number, then what is the constraint name, primary key, I can do. Similarly, what are the different fields you wanted, what are the different constraints you wanted to add, you can do it by using this syntax. Not null. Not null means you can't fill it, you can't leave it as empty, or you can't leave that field and go for the next one. That is what called as not null. This field will never accept a null value, and remember, one null is not equal to another null. So while you are inserting a new row in a table without specifying any value to this field, you can't go further. Here again, create table student, ID int, not null, comma name, varchar, data type is of 10, not null, they have given here not null, and address varchar of 20, the size. So not null is being specified for ID and the name. Now unique, it identifies each row in a table very uniquely for a particular column, and that is, it should not have a duplicate values. We can have more than one unique column in a table. How we can create this unique is, create table student with an open parenthesis, ID int of 6, not null, unique. Here both the constraints are being enforced. Not null plus unique is again a primary key. Not null plus unique is again a primary key. Comma name, varchar of 10, address varchar of 20. In primary key, as far as we have discussed, primary key is always unique. It will be identifying in each row in a table. If a field in a table you have a field with not null and unique, then it is a primary key, and a table will have only one field as a primary key. You can't have n primary keys. Only in a table only one primary key will be allowed. Here see, create table student, ID int, not null, unique. This is different. This is different constraint. Name varchar 10, address varchar of 20, then primary key ID. Here instead of giving here, again they have enforced this primary key. Now coming to the foreign key, it is used to identify in which table which field is uniquely identify each row of another table. That is, the field that points to a primary key of another table, this will be usually creating a link. For example, I can take two tables here, customer details and order details. Here customer ID, customer name, address is being there. Customer ID, I can take it as a primary key. This customer ID, I can take it as a primary key. So while we are linking this with here, this is a primary key in this table, but it is not a primary key for this table. So this will be the foreign key. This will be the foreign key of this particular table. I have mentioned it as F key. And this will be the primary key for this particular table. Now here, these are the list of examples how we have to create a foreign key. Create table, order details, order ID, int as a primary key. When you see it over here, this add foreign key CID references which table? Customer details, right? This is how the primary key and foreign key is being linked. Now coming to a check constraint. Check constraint means it will be checking before entering the value. It is validating. Suppose age is less than 18, it should not be entered. In that cases, we can go for this. And salary should not be 0 or it should not be null. In that case, we can enter it as check. We can give one constraint as check. Here, create table student SID int not null check is ID is greater than 0. That is, it should not be 0. Name, varchar, not null, age. So while entering the values, if 0 occurs, it won't be entering the values. It will be showing you a violation. Okay, check constraint violation. Then again, using at column level, you can use alter table student add check SID is greater than 0. In case in the first in the creation of table, if you haven't added, you can go for check constraint at the column level. Now default is, you can set a default value for a particular field, like age, it should be 18, or salary should be, that is minimum salary should be 1000, or like that you can fix it. This is what the purpose of default value. Thank you.
Today we are going to see about the SQL constraints. Why there is a necessary for this constraints is you can use it to limit it, or you can apply a rule to a particular column in a table using this constraints. How we have to apply these constraints? By using create or alter table at row level and column level. Here the different types of constraints in SQL are: first one is not null, second one is unique, third one is primary key, and fourth one is check, and another one is default. Coming to the next slide, how we have to create these constraints. There is a rule like create table, table name, whatever the attribute name, field name, along with the data type we can give it, and here it has been given constraint name. In the place of constraint name, we can give the constraints, whatever is necessary for our things, like check constraint or primary key or null, not null constraint, unique constraints. All these constraints we can add to while creating our table. Coming to the next slide, first heading is not null. Here, not null, what is the work of not null? It ensures that column cannot have a null value. The field will never accept a null value. For example, when I am inserting the values for a particular table called student, ID, name, and address without applying the not null constraint, I am entering the field ID as 1, name as XYZ, and address as to USA, right? These are the things normally we used to do. But just in case, if we are entering the value, second value, here without entering the second, without entering 2, I'm leaving this place as empty and I'm entering here YZ and Canada. Now here I didn't enter a value in the column of ID. Once if you enforce this not null constraint, without filling this, you can't go further. When you are not filling it, you will be getting an error message. That is not null constraint is being violated. So what is the purpose of this not null constraint? You can't leave that field as empty. Coming to the next slide, unique. Unique key. This ensures that all the values in the column are different. You can't say, for example, if you take a student table, ID, here it will be unique. Suppose a registration number is there, all registration number won't be same. It will be different. 1, 2, 3 or 001, 002. Each person will be having a different or unique. That value does not match with any other order value. Here see again, create table student ID, data type, not null is not null, already we have seen. Again unique. Both the constraints can also be implemented here in one for a particular field. Then name and address is not being given any constraint. Coming to primary key. Primary key is used to uniquely identify a row. It identifies each row in a table. If a field in a table is a primary key, then the field will not be able to contain any null values as well as all the rows should have a unique values for this field. In other words, we can say that this is a combination of not null plus unique constraint. A table can have only one field as a primary key. Here they have created for this id int primary key is being given at the last. This is one way of defining, or you can define id int primary key. This is also correct way of defining your primary key. Foreign key. Here I have represented primary key as pk and foreign key as fk. When we can say this as a foreign key is it is referencing a row in another table. Now CID in customer detail, it is a primary key, and when it comes to order detail, that is a primary key in customer detail. But here, while it is being referencing, this is called as foreign key. It helps in coordinating or linking with both the table and able to fetch details. This is what the function of the foreign key. Here, it is used for to reference a record that is existing in another table. Okay. Suppose I have another example if you wanted. We have a college code. Suppose for example, we have an order table. In that order ID, customer ID is there. Again in customer table, customer ID, customer name and some other fields are there. In customer table, customer ID will be the primary key. In order table, this customer ID will be linked. In that case, it will be the foreign key in that particular table. So while if we want to get an information, we have to link both the tables together. This is what the example given here. How we have to represent is whatever the thing, whichever field you wanted to represent, CID int foreign key references. Here similarly at constraint at column level, here alter table, order detail is the table name, add foreign key, CID is the column name, referencing customer detail tables CID. So it is being linked. Coming to check constraint, here it is used to check the values. For example, it is allowing you to check the condition before allowing a values in a table. Suppose amount is greater than or equal to 100. So value of amount column must be always greater than or equal to 100. If not, this statement will be resulting in an error. Similarly, here they have given an example of check SID is greater than 0. So when you are violating this rule, it will be definitely showing you an error. Thank you.